Adi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasoda Dana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Rajajana Ranjana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachariya Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Banachari Tira Banachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Ostatir Sati Sri Sriman, His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Ostatir Sati Sri Sriman, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnavindi Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Brahmshika Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Sri Radha Partha Sarati Ki, Shri Sri Ram Lakshman Sita Devi Ki, Yamuna Mai Ki, Ganga Mai Ki, Tulsi Devi Ki, Bhakti Devi Ki, Shamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhan Ki, Iskan Delhi Ki, Srila Prabhupada's book distribution Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We'll switch from the Durga Chasma to the Pascha Chasma, and then I will be able to read the Srimad Bhagavatam with the help of this transparent medium. So, we are reading from the 4th Canto, 28th chapter, 20th verse, correct? Okay. Prabodayati Mavijanam. More light? Oh, good. Vyasute Soka Karshita Vartmayatad Grihamediyam Vira, Sur, Api, Neshati, Prabodhayanti Mahavijanam, Vayusate Soka Karshita, Vartmaitad Grihamediyam, Virasur Api Neshati, Prabodhayati Mavijanam, Vyasute Soka Karshita, Vartmaitad Grihamediyam, Virasur Api Neshati, Prabodhayati Mevajanam, Vyasute Soka Karshita, Vartmaitad Grihamediyam, Virasurapi Neshati. Repeat. Ladies, Vaishnavis. Prabodhayanti gives good counsel. Ma, unto me, avidanam, foolish. Vyasute, at the time of my being away. Soka, by aggrievement. Karshita, being aggrieved and thus dried up. Vartma, path. Etat, this. Griya medium, of household responsibilities. Virasu, the mother of great heroes. Api, although. Neshati, she will be able to execute. So we will read the translation and the purport. Then I will come back to go over some of the points in it afterwards. And we may go back and forth depending on time because there are several points to get out. So I may go through them in brief and then come back and go over them a little more. So first the translation by Srila Prabhupada. King Puranjan continued thinking how when he was in a state of bewilderment, his wife would give him good counsel and how she would become aggrieved when he was away from home. Although she was the mother of many sons and heroes, the king still feared that she would not be able to maintain the responsibility of household affairs. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. At the time of death, King Puranjana was thinking of his wife, and this is called polluted consciousness. As Lord Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Mamishvamo jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana, mana sanstrani indriyani, prakriti stani karshati. The living entities in this conditional world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. The living entity is, after all, part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, Krishna. In other words, Krishna's constitutional position and the living entity's constitutional position are the same qualitatively. The only difference is that the living entity is eternally an atomic particle of the Supreme Spirit. Mama vaivamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. In this material world of conditional life, the fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord, the individual soul, is struggling due to his contaminated mind and consciousness. As part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, a living entity is supposed to think of Krishna. But here we see that King Puranjana, the living entity, is thinking of a woman. Such mental absorption with some sense object brings about the living entity's struggle for existence in this material world. Since King Puranjana is thinking of his wife, his struggle for existence in this material world will not be ended by death, as revealed in the following verses. King Puranjana had to accept the body of a woman in his next life due to his being overly absorbed in thoughts of his wife. Thus, mental absorption in social, political, pseudo-religious, national, and communal consciousness is cause for bondage. During one's lifetime, one has to change his activities in order to attain release from bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Yagnarthat karmano nyaloka yam karma bandhanaha. If we do not change our consciousness in this life, whatever we do in the name of social, political, religious, communal, or national welfare will be the cause of our bondage. This means we have to continue in material conditional life. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, mana sastriyanindriyani prakriti stani karshati. When the mind and senses are engaged in material activities, one has to continue his material existence and struggle to attain happiness. In each and every life, one is engaged in the struggle to become happy. Actually, no one in this material world is happy, but the struggle gives a false sense of happiness. A person must work very hard when he attains the result of his hard work. He thinks himself happy. In the material world, people do not know what real happiness is. Sukham atyantikam yat tat buddhi grayam atendriyam. Real happiness must be appreciated by the transcendental senses. Unless one is purified, the transcendental senses are not manifest. Therefore, to purify the senses, one must take to Krishna consciousness and engage the senses in the service of the Lord. Then there will be real happiness and liberation. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:8, Sariram yad avapnoti yat chapi utkramatish varaha grihita vaitani samyati vayorgandam ivashayat. The living entity in this material world carries his different conceptions of life from one body to another, as the air carries aromas. If the wind passes over the garden of roses, it will carry the aroma of the roses. And if it passes over a filthy place, it will carry the stench of obnoxious things. Similarly, King Paranjan, the living entity, now passes the air of his life over his wife, a woman. Therefore, he has to accept the body of a woman in the next life. Om Agyana Timranya Sagana Gana Salakaya Chaksurin Militan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. You keep the light on so I can see? There. This is the whole point here, that one has to purify the senses to engage in Krishna consciousness. And there are so many auxiliary points here that are going along with this to see. First, I'd like to thank you all for having me here in Sri Sri Radha Parthasarathi, ISKCON, New Delhi. I don't get much time to be here because I stay in Vrindavan a few months. Everyone tells me, oh, you can't leave Vrindavan. This is the home of the soul. And Laguna Beach Temple is a small temple. Our deities, the Panchatattva, are the last ones on the left in the Parikram mark. And they tell me, oh, you're the longest time Prabhupada disciple and you've been in this town for so many years. You have to stay here. And my granddaughter and her child live there. Then South Africa always wants me to come there because they say that Prabhupada sent me to South Africa. So they're all doing my service, but the government threw me out. They took 8 hours to decide whether to throw me in a jail or throw me out of the country. So I was allowed back when the government changed. But we preach in spite of these difficulties. And then, of course, my daughter lives in Bali. I will be in Mumbai for the 40-year reunion because I was initiated in Mumbai March 27, 1971. And then, of course, in Mayapur, I help Braj Vilas with the TOVP, and that is where we have our Gaur Purnima, so they always want me to be there. So I don't have roots People ask me where I live, where I'm based, in the Viman. May Viman raheta hu. And then I visit different places. So, going over some of these ideas, starting from the beginning here. King Paranjan is so much worried about his own wife and what will happen with her, and therefore his consciousness is absorbed in her. Generally, our consciousness is either absorbed in matter, which means women for us and men for the women, or it's absorbed in Krishna. And it's funny because it's all just the material nature, but if it's shaped in just the right way, it looks very attractive to us. And if it's not, it doesn't. But we have to concentrate on what our prime duty in life is, not to be so much worried about others. It's a delicate balance, because here, as we see later on, that we have to be careful because we are the same qualitatively as Krishna, but we are small. Amsa, tiny, right? Very small. We are like the Tatastha Shakti. Sometimes we are covered, sometimes we are not covered. So this means that we have to depend on Krishna. We have to understand what the Shastras say, and we have to cooperate with our God brothers. On Bhaktisiddhanta's appearance day, one Gaudiya Math sannyasi came to here, and he said, you shouldn't accept the Guru just based on the institution. I said, well, it shouldn't be the only consideration, but it should be a consideration because we are trying to serve the mission that Srila Prabhupada has given us. He said, well, organization is not Vedic. It's not important to have organization. I said, well, this is a weak point for the Gaudiya Math, not a strong point, because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada wanted them to form a governing body and work together. Then Srila Prabhupada in March of 72, March 2nd, I was there in Mayapur, he brought all of his godbrothers together. And he said, now that we're all together, we will do as our spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, wanted. We will form a governing body, and we will work together as one movement from today forward. And they all went Jai, but it didn't happen. Now, ISKCON, some individuals have had problems, and we should be grateful for the devotees and the gurus who haven't. But the saving grace is that we have Prabhupada as the founder Acharya. Some people say, well, we have to have Prabhupada. Other people say, well, you need to have a new guru. Which is correct? Which? Some people say we need to have Prabhupada. Some people say you need to be initiated by a new guru. Which is correct? Both. You put both together. This is the solution. In some places they said the Ritvik people think that you just need Prabhupada, no new guru. And Narayan Maharaj people say, forget that, you just get totally new guru. And in South Africa, some people thought that Narayan and Ritvik work together. But if you put these two ideas together, that you have Srila Prabhupada and you also have a new guru, then you get ISKCON, right? Because either extreme has an idea. If you just try to study, this is good. First, we get faith in Prabhupada. Then we find a guru who can teach us. Otherwise, guru is quoting out of the 19th chapter, and because you never read it, you don't know that this chapter doesn't exist. So we have to know what is in Prabhupada's books, and then we find a guru who can guide us. So we need to have both of these things. Now, is saying that without an institution. Okay, which choice is better? I come to Delhi. We have an institution. Gopal Krishna Maharaj says, oh, make sure that are they taking care of you nicely? And they drive me to the temples they've already established. And I get to talk there. Or should I show up in Delhi 1 week ago, start my own movement, build some temples, and go around and lecture to them, all within the 8 days that I will be here? Because I am AMSA, I can't do this. So we cooperate together. It is like a car. It has many parts, but they all have to stay together. So going back to King Puranjan here, and the idea is because we are small, we have to stay connected to these things. And it is difficult. We have love for other people and detachment at the same time. That means we love and care for them, but we are not attached to what they do. We are praying to Krishna simply to what is service he wants us to do and the power to carry out that service. And this is the difficulty that King Puranjan has here. There are 4 kinds of people who come to Krishna, and we are not just preaching to the ones who want knowledge of the absolute truth. Many people are in great distress. They have organizations to help these people. Some people have different kinds of addiction. They have the overeaters. There's Overeaters Anonymous. They have the people who are alcoholics, drinking. They have Alcoholics Anonymous. They have Sex Addicts Anonymous for people who are addicted to sex. And then they have the Al-Anon. Al-Anon is for people who are related to the alcoholics. And the Al-Anon person is having so much trouble with what the alcoholic is doing. But in Al-Anon, you know what they advise those people to do? The alcoholic is drinking, and obviously they create all kinds of trouble. So in Al-Anon, what do they tell the person to do? Does anyone know? Put the attention on your own spiritual life where you can actually do some good, right? Whether people in your life are doing well or whether they are creating problem, you put the attention. I can chant my rounds. I can have some success. I may not be able to control what someone else does. I care about them, but I can't worry about them. I have to take care of my own spiritual life. And we are not the only ones advising that. They tell them, don't ask for so many things for yourself. Ask what is knowledge of God's will for you and the power to carry that out. That's what we do in bhakti. Because this is what works spiritually. If you're having a problem in this material world with material attachments, it won't help you to come and pray for more material attachments, will it? It won't help you. You have to ask for knowledge of what Krishna's will for you is. And you put the attention on your own spiritual life. But it is easy to get dragged away, because here's what happens. King Puranjan was absorbed in sense objects, and the senses are there. But what happens is Krishna says in the 2nd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, get this, while contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment for them. From such attachment, lust arises. You see, each step brings something worse. First contemplating the objects, then I get attachment, then lust arises. From lust, anger develops. From anger, you become bewildered. See? King Puranjan is bewildered. This is how you become bewildered. And then he falls into the material pool, completely confused and bewildered. So we have to understand these instructions of Bhagavad Gita. In the 6th chapter, which does Krishna say? Let the mind, you tell me which does he say, let the mind contemplate these attachments? then develop lust, and then worry about it later? Or does he say, from whenever and wherever the mind wanders, pull it back under the control of the self? Which one is it? First one or second one? Second one, good. Do more people follow the first one? They do. Does it get them in trouble? It's like yesterday. They didn't know where the Noida temple is, but you ask the on the phone and it tells you, now you go here, now you go there, now you go the other. So when we don't know where to go, we follow the instructions that are there of what to do. Otherwise we get in trouble. I have not been able to be here with you because every morning they take me to Rohini or to Punjabi Bagh or Faridabad or Ghaziabad or Noida. Yes, see, so many places I don't even remember them all. And so I have not been able to be here with you. But in each of those, we have to follow the proper directions to get there. So people need to know how the sensual arrangement is working. Usually they get it wrong. We have matter. The senses become attracted to matter. And then the mind contemplates these. Then the mind engages the intelligence to find ways and means to gratify these. And then the soul is lost. We are getting this wrong. The wrong instructions. You're taking the wrong master is there. It is supposed to work from the top down. The soul gives instructions to the intelligence. The intelligence is like the driver of the vehicle. And the reins are like the mind. And he does, just like the Google on the phone is giving direction, the soul is taking direction from Bhagavad Gita, and he tells the horses, now go this way towards Krishna. So the intelligence uses the mind to engage the senses in the proper duty. If you just let them go, you will have all kinds of trouble. That's why this is called a science of Krishna consciousness. We have to try to utilize this in the proper way. To control, have the intelligence engage the mind to control the senses. Not that the senses agitate the mind and the mind uses the intelligence thinking how I can get these different things. So, what else is in here? That's why it says here we have to change our activities in order to release ourselves from bondage. Otherwise, we have to continue in material conditional life. This is the result. You can absorb your mind in all these material thoughts, but the trouble is you get to continue your material existence and struggle to get happiness. Whereas when we work in Krishna consciousness, we get Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam, the unlimited spiritual bliss that will happen at any time. So what we realize here, it talks about our different conceptions of life. That as long as we don't see Krishna, we have some conception in life that is wrong. And so we have to, it says in the very beginning, control the mind. Because as it says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, we get the attachment. So if the contemplation comes in, we have to fix it soon. Just like if you are driving the wrong direction, the sooner you fix it, the quicker you will get to your destination. Because we realize that the things we think about, they're like prayers. If you pray, Krishna, please send me something. You're thinking, oh, I would really like to have that. It's almost the same as a prayer. Our thoughts are like prayers. The things we think about end up being the things that we do. And the things that we do end up becoming habits. And the habits we do make us become the person that we are. And the person that we are determines where we are going to go. You can't act materially and go to Krishna. And if you act in Krishna consciousness, you won't be involved in material actions. They say that saying that pretty is as pretty does. You know, it's what you do that counts. You can't think, well, I do all nonsense, but my heart is in Krishna consciousness, right? If someone has a wife and they say, but I don't come home at night, I don't cook for you, I'm with many other men, but it's okay because I love you. Is that okay? Right? Doesn't matter what they do, as long as they say, but I love you, that fixes everything, right? Does it? No, it doesn't. Some people think this, but I love you, and that fixes everything. And don't think some women don't act this way. They think as long as they love you, it doesn't matter what they do. And of course, men do this also. This isn't a gender issue. But it's what you do. If you want to feel love, you give love. And as far as habits, we have a few habits, right? If you have a habit of chanting 16 rounds, it's not so difficult. You know why I have not learned how to play cricket? Because I have no habit of playing cricket. I haven't devoted any time for it. And therefore, I forget that it exists most of the time. But there are some people, that's all they think about. Yes? Their goal is a wicket. My goal is Krishna. Where do we want to go? Back to Krishna Loka or Wicket Loka? And of course, that isn't the worst thing. If the person's issue is alcohol, what do they think about the first thing they wake up? That is why, what do we do the first thing when we wake up? What do we do? No, not there. The first thing. What do we do? Guru, and what do we do? Pay obeisances to the Guru first. See, it was like the Gaudiya Math Sannyasi was telling people that, you know, you just come to us and we'll give you the real nectar of your relationship with Krishna. This sounds good, right? Well, it's why I'll just skip the process, right? Why go to school? I'll just get a degree, right? And put it on the wall, and then I can become professional, right? So I'll just skip the service, and I'll skip what they're saying. And at night, I will sneak into the Seva Kunj, where Radha and Krishna are having their pastimes, and I'll just say, here I am, Krishna, I'm joining your pastimes. Will that work very well? Huh? Can we try to force Krishna to involve us in his pastimes? Is it that choice? Or do we go to a different mat? Or do we serve the spiritual master with love, and when Krishna is pleased, he will reveal our relationship? Do you think it is easier to let Krishna invite us into his pastimes, or should we just force our way in? Should we try that? Right? We just force Krishna to do things the way that we want? Or do we accept the things the way that Krishna wants? Is there a prayer that we can say to get everything to happen the way we want it to happen? Is there? There is. You know what the prayer is? Krishna, today my wish is that everything will happen for me the way that you arrange it to happen for me. Then I get my wish. If my wish is to just think whatever Krishna wants for me, I'm willing to accept that. Our happiness comes not from forcing the material world to do it our way, but by accepting what Krishna gives us. And we're not the only people that say that, because it's the truth. Our happiness comes by accepting what Krishna gives us. And it's a lot easier to accept what Krishna is giving than try to force Krishna to do it our way. because he does not have to comply. And we will be struggling in this condition. So what we do when we're having problems, issues with people, places, things, because when we surrender to Krishna, then we don't have problems anymore. They're Krishna's problems. What some people do is you write down this problem, a person, a thought in your life, some issue you're worried about, and then you give that to Krishna, or you have a little box that you put the things in for Krishna, and you say, okay, Krishna, these things are bothering me. I give them to you, and you do with them what you want, and then I just go on serving you. So the idea is to try to remember that we are trying to put our attention on Krishna. And we become bewildered about what the instructions of Shastra are on how to control the mind and engage it in Krishna, because we haven't read these things. This is our problem, as I tell people. You keep books available. Prabhupada translated these books. One other person said, well, you can't really read these books on your own. They have to be spoken to you by the lips of a pure devotee person. But if we want to understand the books by an author, better to understand how they did it. Yes? If somebody makes a movie and you have some speculated idea what this movie means, but the person who made the movie says this is what it means, whose opinion is more important, yours or his? So Prabhupada says in the books, you read my books. He doesn't say someone else has to read them to you, or you can't understand these books unless you get them somewhere else. You have to understand them as the author is giving them to you. Now, we don't have to argue with these people. We simply present it as a matter of fact, like I did with the Gaudiya Mat sannyasi. I said the organization is something that not only our spiritual master wanted, but he wanted it because Bhaktisiddhanta wanted it. And it's obvious what happens when they don't have an organization. When they each go on their own way and don't work together, it's a lot more difficult and things splinter. So what we have to do is we don't have to oppose any different organizations, but we don't endorse them or go along with them either. We say we appreciate you as Vaishnavas, but I'm already busy in understanding what it is that Prabhupada wants me to follow in relation to the scripture and relationship to my spiritual masters now, that we must combine all these things together. So to do that, we have to understand what is there in the books. If we understand what is there in the books, these things become clear, that we concentrate on Krishna, we cooperate with others, and we are dealing with the spiritual master. We are dealing with God brothers more advanced. We are dealing with friends, and we are dealing with new people. But in any case, our relationship is that we are trying to serve them and help them in their service to Krishna. How we do that might be different, but that is our goal. We understand what is there in the Shastras. We read these Shastras, and then we will understand how we are to engage our mind in serving Krishna and helping others. That is our mission. Understand the Shastras, serve Krishna, help others. But we must keep the book with us to spend time reading it. Because if others approach us and we don't know what is the proper thing, we will become bewildered. So we have to be forearmed first, right? Like India has an army, right? They train these people before a war. They don't think that if Pakistan attacks, then we will train people. So we have to be trained ahead of time. And we deal with people based on principle. It is all right what they do, but we already have our spiritual master. We already have our mission. And by serving in this way, Krishna will reveal himself to us when he is ready. Thank you. Are we done? Any question or comment? Hare Krishna. So tomorrow I fly to the Hindu island of Bali, where we have 5 temples, and my daughter lives there. And there the weather varies between 24 degrees Celsius and 34. Here it varies between about 2 and 52, right? Yes. But I have to, in my life, engage the time where I see family and do preaching there also. Go back to my hometown of Laguna Beach. Go back to South Africa, where I was the first devotee to go. Because there I was left all alone by a sannyasi, and I spent 6 months there preaching alone. And Prabhupada wrote me a letter that he was very much pleased at the responsibility I'd taken at such a young age. So we each have to take some responsibility for preaching to others. And then Krishna will become pleased. Hare Krishna. Is there a quick question, or is our time done? All right, Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you all for being here.